Do you want a small, light, and cheap lens for your camera? I've got you covered, but first a little background. The Minolta A-mount was the first successful autofocus camera lens mount, and the photography world went wild when it was released in 1985. There are tons of lenses out there released both for 35mm film and digital cameras. The models on the screen are all cameras I think the lenses I'm going to recommend will be good for. I have a video going over all of the SLT models, and it covers the differences they have with DSLRs. They're an interesting middle ground between DSLRs and mirrorless technology. Why I've grouped the cameras like I have is because the bulk of them were released between 2008 and 2012, and that coincides with the peak sales of interchangeable lens and point-and-shoot cameras. By 2013, 2014, everyone agreed that phone cameras had gotten good enough, and dedicated camera sales fell off a cliff. Currently, none of the cameras that I have shown are worth more than $200 with a kit lens, so I'm going to keep my recommendations under $200, with lots of them coming in under $100. If you have a larger budget than that, an upgrade is possibly in order. That's why lenses for the full frame and higher end APS-C camera models are in a different video, as well as the film era lenses. You may have noticed that there are both Sony and Minolta cameras and lenses. That's because Minolta had to recall almost all of the first two DSLRs they released. It was due to the so-called first black frame problem. After some use, the first frame that was captured by the camera would be black, and then after more use, all of the frames would be black. The recall had to be expensive because Sony bought Minolta's camera division in 2006, and Sony released the last A-mount camera, the A99 II, in 2016. Sony now uses the E-mount on their mirrorless cameras. Be careful because they can't be mounted to their camera. There are no adapters that will work. The flange focal distance is too long. However, A-mount lenses can be used on mirrorless cameras with an adapter like the Sony LA-EA5. You only need to know 3 lens abbreviations to avoid lenses that won't work. SAL stands for Sony Autofocus Lens. This will be right at the beginning of every product number. DT is digital technology. These lenses have been designed for digital cameras with an APS-C size sensor. The lenses you want to avoid are the SEL, which stands for Sony E-mount lens. You do not want to see that in a product number. That means it will not work on your camera. I like to check prices by using the completed listings filter on eBay. It shows what people actually paid. That won't answer the eternal question of should you buy it, but you will be able to know if it is a good deal or not. And considering I think you're a good person, you should go ahead and buy whatever camera gear you're looking at. The first lens that I am always going to recommend, especially if it didn't come with your camera, is the Sony DT 18 to 55mm f3.5 to 5.6 SAM, either the first or second versions. One of them was likely the kit lens for your camera. They're special because they're cheap and easy to find, making them the best value lens for the A-mount. The zoom range covers the most widely used focal lengths. Buildings, groups, portraits, this lens has you covered. Though you're probably going to have to use a flash indoors, as the smaller aperture just doesn't let in that much light. Overall, I think it's the perfect lens to make sure that your camera actually works and that you enjoy carrying it around. You're going to be able to learn about shutter speed, ISO, you can put a circular polarizer on it, and you can blast stuff with a flash. It will be a lot of fun. One thing it won't do is blur a background. You're going to need a faster lens than that, and that's simply one that has a bigger hole in the front. The F numbers you see on a lens are the diameter of the aperture, so the size of the hole in the lens, divided by the focal length. So the smaller the F number, the bigger the hole. That means more light can enter the lens so that you can use a faster shutter speed to get a proper exposure. And that's why people refer to them as faster lenses. Additionally, the depth of field, or what's in focus, is going to be smaller or shallower, allowing you to blur backgrounds. It's a concept that will make more sense with a little bit of practice, so you don't need to stress out about it. I want you to get out and shoot, which is why for sports, action, or wildlife photography, you're going to want a telephoto lens like the Sony DT 55-200 f4-5.6 SAM. The additional reach will help you capture action from far away. It'll be good enough to start trying to get pictures of birds. If you have trouble getting close enough, try some simple camouflage. It's nice and light, which makes it perfect to take on walks and hikes. Hand-holding it shouldn't be a problem, and you're not going to be exhausted from carrying it around all day. If you haven't used a telephoto lens before, you're going to have a lot of fun with this one. The Sony DT 55-300 f4.5-5.6 will give you more reach. That can be helpful if you're stuck at one end of a field. That said, the image and build quality isn't great. It isn't expensive, but keep in mind that the MSRP was originally $300. I think you should try to find a good deal and make sure to not overpay for this lens. The next step up would be the Sony G 70-300 f4.5-5.6 SSM. It was originally $999, and now it isn't even twice the price of the 55-300. It's a full frame lens, which is good for upgrades but bad for weight. I wouldn't recommend buying it unless you're already planning an upgrade or have another body that it can be used on. That's because more focus points and faster continuous shooting are upgrades that you will notice. And I would rather have them before getting a more expensive lens. For blurry backgrounds, my recommendation is the Minolta Maxxum AF 50mm f1.7. It's got a big enough hole to get some nice bokeh. Close that hole down by stopping down the aperture, and more will be in focus. Another trick you can do is to change the distance between your subject and the background. The further your subject is away from the background, the blurrier it will be. It's a full frame lens, so you won't have any problems using it on a 35mm film SLR, one of the full frame A-mount cameras, or adapting it to a mirrorless body. It's the lens I would recommend if you want to take portraits. The price can't be beat, and I think I would rather have it and a 5-in-1 reflector than its replacement, the Sony DT 50mm f1.8 SAM. It's a DT lens, meaning it was designed for cameras with APS-C sensors. If you ever decide to upgrade in the future, it's not going to be usable on a full-frame camera. So while it is my third portrait recommendation with the second lowest price, the reality is, unless you're a hoarder, at some point in time in the future, you're going to need to resell the lens. The less likely you are to do that, the better off I think you are on purchasing one of the other two lenses. With the other being the Sony 50mm f1.4 or earlier Minolta version of the lens. It's fast enough that melting backgrounds is going to be easy. That's not something a point and shoot or phone can do. It's also going to do a great job at focusing in low light like you will experience indoors. For instance, if you didn't want to have to use a flash with the 18 to 55mm kit lens, or you're experiencing blurry photos due to having a slow shutter speed, this lens should help you solve those problems. Moving on, the first lens that I would buy is the Sony DT 35mm f1.8 because it has an equivalent full frame field of view of a 52.5mm lens. 50mm lenses or the equivalent are my favorite. The field of view is enough to maneuver around indoors. Framing up a shot is going to be easy and feel natural, and it's right smack in the middle of the focal range of an 18 to 55mm lens. That means it's going to be great for general photography, street, low light, and lots of other subjects. The only wider prime that isn't a fisheye is the Sony or Minolta 20mm f2.8. I think it's an awkward focal length for APS-C cameras. The image quality will be better, but it's not as wide as a kit lens. That was always a shortfall of APS-C cameras during this era. The manufacturers, including Nikon and Canon, really wanted to push people to buying more expensive full-frame cameras, and as such, the wide-angle prime lens selection just isn't great across the board. You're going to be better off with the wide zoom. And that's not plural because the DT 11 to 18mm f4.5 to 5.6 is basically the only choice you get. It's a good lens at a good price, but the APS-C cameras only had about a decade of development. That's not very much time compared to the full-frame A-mount bodies, and I'm including the film cameras in that, or other systems. If you want easier to find lens options with a wider selection, my recommendation is to take a look at the Sony E-mount or Micro Four Thirds. If you want a fisheye, there's the Rokinon 8mm f3.5. It was designed for APS-C bodies and has a 180-degree field of view. The image quality isn't going to be great because it's a fisheye, but no one is going to care. It's a fun effect, and this is a cheap way to get it. For macro lenses, the Minolta AF Macro 50mm f2.8 would be my choice for tabletop photography. The working distance, that's the room from the front of the lens to the subject, isn't going to be great for 1x magnification. You're going to be too close. There's also a newer Sony version that's more expensive. The Minolta AF Macro 100mm f2.8 is the lens I would choose if I wanted life-size magnification. There is going to be plenty of space between the lens and the subject to either not scare them or for lighting. Sometimes deals can be found on the Sony version, but I wouldn't want to pay twice as much. Hopefully that's a reasonable amount of lenses to recommend. I wouldn't want to end up with more than a prime and 2 zooms. At a certain point, further investment doesn't make sense. They're not bad cameras, they're actually very good cameras. The problem is, once you start getting to around $500 for a kit, Micro Four Thirds and Sony E-mount become very attractive options. Both of those systems are still actively being developed, which makes it easier to upgrade a camera and keep your lenses, or upgrade a lens and stick with the same camera you already like. So that'll do it for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. It is a vanity metric. You don't need to worry. If my videos are bad, they're not going to be recommended to you. I'm going to use the larger number to explore the ethics of getting my hands on more camera gear. Thank you for watching, and keep a lookout because I have lots of helpful information coming out soon that I know you'll enjoy.